My name's Jill Rowe, and in this episode of the Different Podcast, I talk with Steve Chalke about resilience. We uncover that resilience can be good and bad and can take many forms. So what ultimately matters are the values and beliefs that our resilience is rooted in. Ultimately, we can't discuss resilience without talking about our motives that are driving us. We think through what our resilience will look like if it's founded on loving God and loving others as ourselves, and in the desire to serve and to give. We recognise that this kind of resilience doesn't just happen, we build it over time through leaning into the struggle and complexity of life. This was such an energising and joyous conversation. Steve Chalke, hello.
Hello, Jill. You sound excited.
Because I'm thrilled to be here, Steve.
Exactly.
Talking to you.
Big smile on your face. Yeah, it's great. It's great to be here. I always enjoy our chance to sit and chat together. Honestly do. Oh. And, we always give it all away here. We do this at the end of a day. And even though you're tired at the end of the day, I find this is great because it's not sitting in front of a screen or chairing a meeting or working through an agenda.
Anything that involves not sitting in front of a screen is great.
Yeah, so. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, resilience.
We're going to talk about resilience, which is fascinating word to me.
And in my world, involves a lot of sitting in front of a screen or chairing a meeting or working out an agenda or, as I got to do tonight when I get home, writing up some minutes of a meeting, etc.
That's even worse. So I don't think that resilience is just about putting up with. But so resilience as a word, I talk about this a lot when I'm introducing people in Oasis to our values or speaking outside of the organisation as well. Because resilience is a word that gets used a lot in value statements for organisations and schools and all the rest of it. And we want our people to be resilient. We want our students to be resilient. And I always do this thing where I ask people to think of someone who has shown resilience. And it could be a historical figure or it could be a family member, whoever, dead or alive or whoever, famous, not famous. And often people will say Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, my aunt, someone who's battled cancer, these incredible stories of really resilient people. And then I always say Adolf Hitler, drug dealers, because these are also people that...
Bank robbers.
They're all people who show resilience.
Swindlers.
Yeah, because it's not a neutral word, right? The ability to keep going, you can keep going in a good way, but you can also keep going and it's serving really negative...
Serious organised crimes, gangs.
Yeah, just people trafficking, all of these things. So I'm really interested in that we're talking about resilience. And I just wonder for you, Steve, when you hear that word, what is it you're thinking of?
Well, I think for me, it's what are you being resilient around? What are your core values? Because resilience, as you put it so well, through these examples you just used, resilience can be good or bad.
Yeah.
It can be used as a positive or it can become a real negative.
Yeah.
So it's in the end for me about the motives that drive you and your core values, and then clinging to those if they're modelled in the right way. If you got them from a good source, then that's a wonderful thing. Yeah. For me, at the age of 14 in the story, so well, I became a follower of Jesus who said, love God and love your neighbour as yourself. So my resilience, in as far as I got any, is built around being glued to those two great statements, to love God, to follow Christ in loving God and giving myself for others, for community.
Yeah.
That's why, by the way, I describe resilience as writing up the minutes of the meeting that we did today, even though
because
I'd rather
a
not.
purpose to it. So that.
I tell you what, it's resilience at the extreme.
So resilience has to be framed around values.
Yes.
It is out of those values that your resilience is being driven towards achieving something that is going to bring good.
So it's all about what it's rooted in, isn't it? I mean, some of all of the dictators in our world, the ones that make the headlines, they're resilient.
Yeah.
They're resilient and they're determined and they wipe out their enemies and they lie and they cheat because they're driven by something that's deeply rooted in them, the desire for power and for domination, rather than the desire to serve and to give. So resilience can be a positive or a negative, depends where it's earthed, where it's rooted.
And for you, Steve, you know, and I am so with you, you know, following the way of Jesus, love others as you love yourself. How have you created that ability in your life to have that resilience that's gathered around that set of core values?
I do think that I'm very fortunate. I've probably told you this before, but I'm very fortunate in that I can truly say, people always say this about their parents, and I'm saying it about my mum, not my dad, who I loved. My mum and dad are dead. But my mum, not my dad, but my mum was the hardest working person I have ever met in my life. Honestly, I mean, my dad was great, but he didn't fit that category. Yeah. He worked hard. He was self-giving, but my mum was relentless. Honestly, I've got a brother and two sisters, and they both say that of her. She was just like, she never gave up. She lived in poverty. She brought us up in poverty. She faced insurmountable barriers, and the older I get, the more I realised how high those barriers were. But she just kept on going and never gave up. And I think that I just caught some of that from her. I don't know if it's nature or nurture. It's probably a bit of both. But it came from my mum. It came from my mum. It really did. Yeah. So people often say of me that I can keep going. You know that phrase, delayed gratification. Yeah. You know what the goal is, so you can sacrifice all sorts of things along the way in order to reach the goal. Yeah. The other day, the other night, I should say, I got up I put on my alarm clock and I got up at 2:00 in the morning. And Cornelia, my wife, she said, "What are you going to do that for? What are you mad?" I mean, and I got up at 2:00 in the morning because I needed to talk to somebody in America, you know, who in the time zone they are. They're 6 hours behind us. So I realised they would have got in from work. I needed to talk to them and I needed to have that conversation on that day because a key piece of a plan for something we're attempting to achieve for other people would have fallen on. Yeah, so I got up at 2:00 in the morning and he didn't answer. And then I left a text message and the next day he told me that his battery had gone flat.
That's so funny.
Yeah, there you go. Answer. But would I do it again? Of course I'd do it again. Would.
So there's a thing in there, isn't there? That resilience. I totally hear what you're saying. You know, your mum and all the rest of it, but actually, your resilience is continually, like for any of us, our resilience is either being built or not built ongoingly, isn't it? And there's something I think about that I notice is people who are resilient. They have a set of skills that when a challenge comes, they know how to utilise those skills.
I think it's locked into a vision, though, isn't it? So,
well, I think it is locked into a vision, but I also think there are some skills that you're like the true north is the vision, right? It's magnetic; you can't escape it. But right, I need to make a phone call. So the challenge is it's meant to be my bedtime, but I'm going to find a way, you know, these two people aren't getting on. In order for this piece of work to fly, we're going to have to do some work. So I'm going to head straight into fixing that. Does that make...
Yeah, no,
there's
absolutely.
something about skills being utilised there.
Yeah, you use your skills.
It's not just... I've not just picked this up from my mum.
No,
you know.
No, but you learn. We're tutored by others, aren't we?
We are
watch
tutored by others, but you're rehearsing.
Yeah.
And are not allowing...
Yeah.
I think we don't allow challenges to overcome us.
Yeah.
We seek to overcome the challenge.
Yeah, and as I say, some of that's nature, some of it's nurture, and the nurture bit is something that you practice and you work at, as well as you watch others in. You have to keep working at that thing. Never give up. You have to constantly thinking about your own output. But you see, that's why resilience can be good and can be bad in the examples you quoted earlier, because it's about a vision. It's about being driven by a vision. And if your vision is for world domination or to become the richest bloke on the planet or whatever, that's what drives you to get out of bed or not go to bed or whatever. But that's why I link it back to a sense of vision, a sense of calling. And when we talk about calling, we assume that that's an honourable thing. Sometimes it's a very dishonourable thing, isn't it? A calling, I want to be better than him. I want to achieve dominance over these people. I want to be in control. But it's that thing that drives us. It's our core values, our core sense of purpose and vision, our North Star.
Yeah. I think for me, I think I've said this to you before. I think for me, I have this just kind of this sense of really being rooted in love. Does that, you know, like it's that there's just a steadiness, therefore, like that's my first point of like my anchoring point, I think, is this is who I am, and there's nothing that can take that away. And so everything becomes possible for me to move through, possible for me to try and find a way with the help of others, obviously. But I think my ability to have resilience is, you call it a true north kind of thing. I feel like it's a grounding in something, which is, for me, is like for yourself is God, and that sense of being loved unconditionally in that. And then realizing that my resilience is being cultivated all the time through challenge and through struggle and through things not working, and all of those things being, oh no, I'm really believe that this is the right thing to do. Yeah.
Years and years ago, I wrote a book. I didn't write it at all. I read it.
I mean, you have written a lot of books.
Yeah, I've written a lot of books and get muddled up. No, I could never have written this book. It's called The Road Less Travelled. Do you know that? Yeah. And it's brilliant.
Peck.
Yeah. What's his name? Scott
Peck. Scott C. Peck.
Yeah. And it really is brilliant. And if anybody wants to read it, you only need to read the first page, actually.
Yeah, it's great.
It's a great first opening couple of paragraphs. And it's about the road less travelled is less travelled because it requires the ability for delayed gratification. It's hard. So the road doesn't get travelled. The road gets turned back on. You give up. People give up. And now I'm not doing it justice. It is a brilliant piece of writing. And, you know, I haven't read it for a long time. But I reckon if I read that once a year to myself, it's something that breathes a sense of resilience into you. Because because so often we expect, I'm talking about me, not anybody else, expect life to be easy, expect it to run smoothly, expect if you've got a great vision, everybody's going to agree with you and fall into place, and then wonder why it doesn't happen and think you're being unfairly marked out. You know, why me? Why am I struggling like this? Why doesn't life go? I'm trying to do a good thing here. Why don't people get behind it? Where are you in all this, God? Why have you let me down? All of that kind of stuff, rather than realizing life's a struggle for everyone. In fact, because I'm a follower of Jesus, I sometimes reflect to myself, you know, when I'm having a right old struggle and the cards don't seem to be falling in the right place, and every phone call I get is a letdown. You go through those times. Oh no. I kind of think when I'm telling myself, oh, you know, you're having a hard time, Steve Chalke, I think, well, actually, I'm following a man who was crucified. Literally crucified, not metaphorically. It's not, oh, I feel like I'm being crucified today. He was literally crucified for what he said and the vision that he drove. So anything short of that is a bit of a win.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean.
Yeah. And I guess this is connected to that in some ways, but I have this strong sense of, and I think, again, this comes through probably quite early on, and I wonder if this is similar for you, Steve, as well, is that when those difficult things happen when you're younger, so my parents getting divorced and then my mum dying of cancer and when I was quite young, and I think the experience of, oh, life didn't end. Life didn't end. There's something then sits with you. It's okay, like it's not the end. It's not the end. It's not the end. So then any other challenge that comes along, it's like, we'll find a way, because that is the pattern of what we choose to do. I may need others to help me find the way, but it won't be the end, because it actually never is.
Absolutely. Do you know, I went recently to watch that musical, which is called Just for One Day.
Oh, yeah.
Or Just One Day.
Just
for One Day.
Yeah.
It's about Bob Geldof.
Yeah.
And about Band-Aid, the song, and writing that with Midge Ure and making it happen. Yeah. And then about the Live Aid concerts in Wembley and New York at the same time, simultaneously. And it has, advert. It's a great musical, if you remember Queen and all that. It's got some great songs in. And of course,
Radio Gaga.
All of that. And great dances. But it's also, as well as being fantastic entertainment and the whole audience is on their feet, it also, if you want to listen, there's a deep thing going through it, because Geldof will not give up, and how he ever got them to record that single, and then how he came up. It was only like 8 weeks, I can't remember. It's a short time. He came up with this idea: let's do 2 concerts, one in America. It was in Philadelphia. It was in Philadelphia. Yeah. One in Philadelphia and one in Wembley in London. He just comes up with this idea. He has no money. No. Never
been done before.
Nobody's agreed to perform in these things, and he's got a few weeks to pull it off. It's just extraordinary. His sheer ability to not give up. And then there's 2 equal and opposite things here. The thing that comes out of there, out of that musical, I came away with a sense of the power of one committed individual. Yeah, is extraordinary. I mean, a genius. Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to meet Bob Geldof a couple of times, and people knock, Band-Aid and all of that kind of stuff, because you shouldn't talk
patronage and
all of those kind of things. But there's a line in the musical which I know is authentic to Bob Geldof. He says, every generation screws up in the end. In other words, I know there was loads of stuff wrong with it.
And yet, come on.
But we raised £100 million or whatever it was. And there are these many people, hundreds, thousands of them, thousands and thousands that are alive that would have starved to death. And I know it's flawed. Yeah. And I know that, now being older, I would have done it a better way. But we did it. And actually the next generation win and learn from the failure or the shortcomings of the one before, all of which he has to say about it. I think it's an amazing thing. They made him and they gave him a knighthood, didn't they? Made him a sir. I think we make people sirs and all the rest of it for all sorts of funny old reasons, like who they know. But I think Bob deserved it. I honestly do.
Yeah.
I think an extraordinary man who's utterly resilient.
Yeah.
And on the times I've met him, subsequent to all that, which is only a few, but again, his utter passion, and he's willing to tread over anything to get to that place. And I've been inspired by him. I genuinely have. Yeah. We need more of that, don't we?
Yeah. And I think when you develop as a resilient person, there's something about, like a mighty oak.
Yes.
I feel like a resilient person is like a mighty oak for others.
Yes.
In that they become like a reference point or a place of shelter or
exactly.
shade in the heat. Or
other people eventually, think, wow, because of what's happened here, I can sit under this. I can learn from this. I can be inspired by it. I can be challenged by it. So you become a mighty oak in that way. And then the thing I said, there's two kind of contradictory things that come out of that story about Geldof. His power as an individual not to give up. And I think lots of that, he would say, come from his upbringing in Ireland and the poverty that he lived through and the poverty he saw and the way he saw generations lose everything. I think the potato famine in Ireland, which was before his lifetime, particularly inspired him, the way that no one cared about that and how many people were lost. And he wasn't going to let this happen in Ethiopia, the thing that he'd heard about in Ireland. But then strangely, I've talked about him doing all this thing, but to go back to that tree, the mighty oak, people shelter under it, but it's very well rooted, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's dependent on the soil that it's planted in, and it's dependent on the other trees around it, which shelter it from the storm and the wind and the et cetera, the gale. And I think there's in resilience, an individual responsibility, which is about delayed gratification and realizing the chips don't always fall in the right place for you. And it's just about keeping going. And there's also the dependency on others at the same time and the recognition that none of us are going to get very far in life without really great people that we've lent on and learned from and benefit from.
I think, we've both been fortunate in that, we've grown up in spaces, in our families or whatever, where people have been strong examples of resilience and so have given us strength and all the rest of it in our lives. You often hear people say, the trouble with some people is they just haven't got any resilience. But there's probably a huge connection for it may be that there is an absence in people's lives of you need one person to care for you. Yeah. Don't you? You need just one person who is going to be there for you, is going to love you, for you to have that sense of, right, now I can grow. Now I can...
A solid rooting.
Yeah. And you think, I'm just thinking about all the young people whose lives we get to be a part of, Steve, through our schools and all the rest of it, and how we all just need one person to help us to become resilient. Because my hope is that through what my efforts of whatever it is that I'm trying to do with my life is that I can help other people become stronger so that they can thrive and all the rest of it. But everybody needs somebody to help them grow their resilience.
So I have two reflections on that, which takes me right back to my mum, you see. Yeah. And my mum was my foundation, my root.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I watched her carry on through genuinely enormous poverty.
Yeah.
I watched her, and I'm sure that I learned from that in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
In all sorts of ways. But then I think, you know, I've now got 10 grandchildren. Now, years ago, when I was bringing up kids, I chose to write a series of parenting books. And you remember? That's how you got involved with Oasis in the first place. How I dragged you into all this, like, you know, exactly those parental books. Yeah. I wrote lots of those, as you know. Yeah. And the reason for writing them, of course, as you remember, I used to say, I want to write books about parenting when I'm in the thick of it, not afterwards, when I've got a kind of rose tinted.
How wonderful it all was.
Yeah, it was all great. Well, I want to write in the agony of it, in the agony of it all. But I remember in writing books about parenting, talking to somebody, and I probably put it into a book one way or the other in the end, but they said being a grandparent, they weren't talking about parenting, they said being a grandparent is a relationship that's entirely set up for the grandchild. You exist in the grandchild's life in order to create a foundation for them. That's it. You know, it's all has to be focused around them. And I remember that. I can't remember who said it to me, and they said it in a more eloquent way than I've just been able to repeat it or misrepresent it. But I found out, I've always known that my relationship with my grandchildren is that I am to them the rootedness. I am
that secure foundation.
I go. So it's a one-way relationship. It doesn't turn out to be that at all. No. But it's a one-way relationship. What can I do to create as strong a foundation for those children as possible by being the best kind of granddad, grandpa, they always call me.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I've learned, and if I could go back to whoever it was that taught me that lesson, that in doing that, it doesn't become one way. It becomes incredibly two-way.
Yeah.
And you get so much back, so much joy.
Joy,
But it's through, to use your oak tree illustration, to understand I have been given things that have been passed on to me that create for me a resilience. And it's my job to stand here and do everything I can to create the soil in which the resilience of a new oak tree can grow.
It's the job of all of us, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you.